What's up, everybody, and welcome to this week's Top 3. Today, we're going to be taking a look at 3 of the latest fully custom decks of cards out there from some amazing designers. But before we jump into it, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel.
And ring the bell.
And let's take a quick word from our sponsor here. One of our favorite decks of 2020, the Wonder playing cards feature beautiful 3D back designs and an amazing tuck printed by Clove Street Press. Check out the latest version, Scarlet, live now on Kickstarter. Edia Studios presents Anime Angel playing cards, printed by Legends Playing Card Company and exclusively available on Kickstarter now. Enter the world of an all-new anime series, Dear Humanity. So I gotta say, man, these 3 decks are really exciting this week. These are 3 decks that I was really looking forward to on Kickstarter, and the fact that they finally fulfilled has got me amped to check them out this week.
Yeah, I'm excited to match these guys up and you know, see where they fit.
No doubt, man. These are some fun decks, and of course, I always like to check out a fully custom deck of cards. You can never go wrong with that beautiful artwork and a nice custom deck. So, ready to see what number 3 is this week, Steve?
I am. Let's do it.
Number 3 this week is the Tournament of Mythic Kingdom playing cards from BoardGaming.com. This deck is printed by USPCC on their premium stock and is part of a 1,500 deck print run and actually features 2 different colorways in the deck, a green Nature Edition and a purple Magic Edition. So let's check out this green Nature Edition here, man.
Let's do it.
As you can see, this deck is really a very much fantasy-oriented deck, which to me was just awesome. You can see right there, orcs, clubs, giving like races to all of the suits from like fantasy world. So you've dwarves, elves, undead, and orcs, I think were the 3 across it. This here is the nature deck, which is the green themed one. There are some slight variations between the magic and the nature deck, mostly color oriented. But let's check this thing out, man. Absolutely gorgeous tuck. Really pretty standard, no embossing or foil on it, but really nice artwork. And then you have this back design, which is also mirrored actually on the front and back of the tuck, which is interesting. Very line work oriented. And being, you know, USPCC premium stock there, handles like a dream, fans like a dream. You have these really fun kind of different jokers there. I'm actually pretty sure the joker is about the same and they just flip the image there. But it's a really cool looking joker, very much brings the style of the deck to the front immediately. And then you can see with the spades here, you have the undead courts, so you have the skeletons. You also have the skeletons throughout the pips on all of the number cards as well. And that's something that carries through all of the decks, is the race that's being depicted for that suit. So diamonds being dwarves have a little bit of a dwarven aspect to the pips on all of the cards. Clubs being orcs, also it looks like they have like some sort of like teeth or something on the pips, which is really interesting, kind of like a snarl from the orcs. Really interesting to see, and kind of hits on a lot of, I think, the fantasy artwork that you'd expect.
That's fun.
Yeah, dude, and if you're into this kind of genre, it's really very kind of well done, very modern, but a little bit cartoony, I'd say, which is interesting. Yeah. Kind of feels like something you'd see on like a Saturday morning cartoon, which I kind of dig.
Yeah, no, it's definitely fun. One-way back design.
Yeah.
You know, everybody loves dragons, so I think it's definitely a fun design.
And then you do have the double backer there and another ad card, which has a little treasure chest on it in BoardGaming.com. Really cool artwork across the board. And this is actually the first deck from Greg Swearingen, who designed the deck, and then from BoardGame.com. So Greg is one of the partners, I believe, for BoardGaming.com. So really cool to see this deck across the board. And I know this was actually a really hyped deck when it first dropped on Kickstarter. People were backing this like crazy, and I don't know if it was a crossover from the board gaming community into playing cards or just people really loved the artwork. But they also had a print artwork book that was an option for an add-on as well, which I thought was really cool.
Oh, cool.
And then they had a couple other little fun add-ons that they did a really nice job with this on. So checking out the green nature deck, really loved it. The purple magic deck is just as nice, and it's a nice royal purple, which I thought really popped well.
I'd like to see that color. And obviously, I mean, people are huge into, you know, that mythical style, whether it's movies or comic books or whatever. I think that's always a big
No
hit.
doubt, man. Game of Thrones made the fantasy genre very much mainstream in the past several years, so it's always great to see that coming into playing cards even more so.
Yeah, definitely.
Dude, you ready for number 2? What's number 2 this week?
Number 2 is native playing cards.
Nice.
It is printed by USPCC on their premium stock. It is a print run of 2,500 and retails for $15.
Nice, man. I gotta say, this deck is absolutely gorgeous. Let's check this thing out.
It is super colorful. I love that African mask on the front. It has some really cool information on the back, just kind of touching on where the deck was inspired by, Nigerian people, by the Blueprint Project, and natives on the side in that nice gold foil. It was designed in Nigeria, and I love the black matte tuck.
Yeah.
Feels really
The
nice.
embossing across the whole tuck also just feels and looks beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely does. And, I'm a huge fan of this back design. It just definitely reminds me of, an African rug or attire that they wear. Just that red, yellow, and black just pops. Handles beautifully, as you would expect, being a USPCC deck. Premium stock, not crushed, but handles beautifully. And I like the fan, how it has like red, black, and that yellow peeking through. The border is not big where you only see one of those colors.
One of the interesting things about the back design too, and we don't always see this, is they actually rounded the edges of the pattern inside the border instead of squaring them off, which actually makes them stand out, I think, a lot more as well.
Yeah, and here's a really cool ad card that kind of talks about, they break down the suits kind of like in the Mythical Kingdom deck, where they talk about different tribes, which I really love.
Yeah, no, I dig that too, man. I love the fact that there's information about this deck more so than just the artwork.
Yeah, and they pull that artwork from the back of the card onto the Ace of Spades, and there you see the Jokers is that African mask. Now, each one of these core cards, obviously being fully custom, what they did here is they pulled different, attire from different areas in Africa. I think, that hat having certain significance to a certain tribe that was, based on the diamonds, and that follows suit throughout the rest of the deck. The pips are really small. Normally we see them a little larger, but they kind of shrunk them down a little bit in this deck. But I really love those court designs. I know you're a big fan of kind of having a lot of white space around the courts.
Yeah, it looks really clean. I think that it really focuses on the artwork. The one thing I have to say too with this is it's interesting, and you can see it on the number cards there, is the placement of the numbers and the pips themselves almost looks a little pushed in from the border, so it actually creates a much wider white space around the outer edge of the card as well. And at first I thought it might have just been like a registration issue, as we know USPCC is prone to, and in fact it looks like it's intentional, which I think is really interesting because it draws your eye to different parts of the card than most decks we see that draw you to the very far edge. This kind of draws you into the middle a little bit. Not that really...
Yeah, it makes you focus more on the
yeah,
artwork.
well, and even on the number cards, though, and it's not necessarily that there's much of a difference to that. You're looking at a number card, you're looking at the pips in the central section of it, cool. It doesn't really draw your eye to anything specific, but the fact that it draws your eye in a little bit more is really interesting, I thought. I also really love the font choice and the stylization of the pips on this one. I thought they did a really good job. The one thing I wish they had done, though, and I think they missed an opportunity here, was the central pips on all of the aces, except for the ace of spades, were small, and they were being small pips in general. They were smaller than you'd usually see, and I think they missed a great opportunity to put more artwork of each of the tribes onto the respective aces, which I think would have been amazing.
Yeah, that would have been awesome for sure.
But otherwise, man, this was a beautiful deck for sure.
Yeah, no, I totally agree, and I was excited that they funded on Kickstarter.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Ready for number 1?
Let's do it, man. I want to hear it.
Ready for this? Are you sure?
I'm ready.
Number 1 this week is the Japanese Scrolls version 2 from Emmanuel Valtiera. This deck, honestly, amazing. Printed by Legends Playing Card on an unspecified stock. It's actually part of an unspecified print run as well. And the price on the campaign was about $15 per deck. Really beautiful deck. Have to say, very artistic. And this is actually the second printing of his first, which was highly successful, the Japanese Scrolls deck. Let's check this thing out, man. So one of the things that I absolutely love about this deck, and you can see it right off the bat, it just has a very tattoo-esque style to it. All of the artwork and the text on the tuck itself is actually embossed as well, which gives a nice slight raise to it. And a little bit later, we actually show that the back of it is actually all flat, so no embossing on that or the little masks there. But there's just beautiful, beautiful detail, even just starting with that tuck. That dragon on the front might actually be my favorite part of this whole deck. But you can see that embossing right there, just catches the light nicely. It's very subtle, adds a little bit of depth, but it hits perfectly. The interesting thing about this, too, is they used a non-white stock, whether it was printed or an off-white stock. There's no real white border to this. It's this kind of like old parchment color with a really interesting back design with a Japanese temple on the back mirrored with the moon as well. You have two jokers with the Japanese traditional masks on it, which I thought are really cool. And then throughout the whole deck, you actually have this kind of like a wave pattern or circular pattern throughout the back design as well. And you can actually see a little bit of contrast in the pips also, which is a lighter shade of gray on the black suits. And then on the red suits, there's a little bit of a darker shade there as well.
Yeah, but the circular patterns remind me of kind of like the sand gardens.
Yeah, like the Japanese Zen gardens. Yeah, very well could be that as well. And so one of the other cool things about this is you can see all of the court cards throughout are very much like Japanese artwork inspired, and they still give off a very like tattoo-esque vibe. Like to me, these are things that I would see in like flash art in a tattoo parlor, which I think is really cool because being a big tattoo enthusiast, that's what I want to see. I love that style of artwork, whether it be Sailor Jerry tattoos or whatever. Actually have Mount Fuji there on that ace of clubs there, yeah. But all of this has this fun like Japanese style to it in the tattoo-esque style that really just popped off this deck amazingly. You have a very unique font as well for all of the indices. And then just this really kind of... It's funny because the monotone back design, when you fan it, almost has like a space vibe to it because of the dot work on it and the moon. But ultimately, this deck just looked absolutely beautiful across the board. Really nicely done work from Emmanuel.
Yeah, I really like it. The only thing I really like to see on that back design is maybe a little black.
Yeah, something to add a little bit of depth or contrast. Yeah.
Just to make it pop a little bit more, you know?
Right. And to me, like, the back design could have been an afterthought on that one. The courts themselves and the tuck stood out so significantly to me. I thought it was absolutely mind-blowing.
Yeah, definitely a fun deck. I dig it.
And everyone's favorite part of the show, this week's comment shout-out goes to Shiro. Congratulations, Shiro. Check out his comment down below. And make sure to leave a comment yourself and let us know which deck this week is your top 3 decks. Let us know, and you may just be so lucky as to win next week's comment shout-out. While we're at it, thank you so much, everyone, for checking out the episode. Make sure to like, share it with a friend, and subscribe, and we will see you next week.
Peace.